Joining us here in the studio, we have Glenn Swogger. He is the recipient of the Liz Stratton Arts Patron Award for Arts Connect's Artie Awards this year. Welcome, Glenn. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Of course, in with us we have Sarah Fazell, Executive Director of Arts Connect. Thank you for being here, Sarah, as well. All right, so Glenn, tell us about your involvement in the Topeka arts community, just the quick elevator speech of it.
Well, as you know, I'm long-winded, but really, I suppose it really got going after Claire and I moved to Topeka in 1971, and I think one of the first things that happened was that I got on the board of the Friends of the Library, and in a way that appealed to me because we collected money from the book sale, and Claire and I participated in that, helping with that. And then they used the money to fund new projects that weren't on the budget in the library. So it gave the library staff a chance to be creative and to respond to things maybe before others had caught on, and to stimulate that spirit in the library, which is, I must say, very, very strong. The library is a very innovative and project-seeking organization, and that appealed to me to be able to help that and to participate in that in various ways.
Very good, very good. And now, where were you born at?
Christ Hospital it was then, now it's Stormont Vale.
All right.
I think my mother told me in those days the women stayed in the hospital for about 10 days and really cooled it, you know, for a while, had somebody else to take care of things. So, but I just go on what she said.
All right, so tell us about your career.
I was very, very fortunate. One thing I should mention, I was talk about donations for people who are supporting important educational ventures. My career, in a sense, started when my dad read us things as a kid, you know. And we loved Tom Sawyer, and then we started on Thackeray's Vanity Fair. He kind of lost his audience, and so when we had to move on to other things. But I got very much of an interest in books and reading and so on. And when I was 15, I was kind of bored in school, and I went to the library, the Topeka High Library, and wanted to see which university had the biggest library, you know, kind of a competitive thing. And it turned out I looked at various ones, and in the course of doing that, I found out that the University of Chicago had a program for early entrance where if you passed the test, you didn't have to go through the complete high school. And that I went to the guidance counselor, Annabelle Pringle, whom did me a wonderful, wonderful favor, because she not only checked out on that, but she found out that there was a scholarship program from the Ford Foundation. So talk about being the beneficiary of philanthropy. I really was. So I took the test without hardly telling my parents what I was doing, you know, because I didn't think anything would come of it. And lo and behold, not only did I win a scholarship, but another Topeka High student won a scholarship too, Jan Rosenberry. And so I then had to convince my parents that barely 16, they would let me go. And it was right in the middle of the 1951 flood. So Call Valley Bank was under 10 feet of water, which is a little more liquidity than they usually like to have in the bank.
A little banker humor there.
But and
my Uncle Dwight, who lived in Chicago, wrote my mother a letter and said, "Don't let Glenn go to the University of Chicago. He'll become a communist." And so
we still have that letter.
No, but I still have a very meaningful memory. I talked to my mother and I said, "If you let me go, I promise I won't become a communist." And bless her heart.
That's a promise most people could probably keep.
Huh?
That's a promise most people could probably keep.
Well, there were a few around Chicago, but that's another story.
Yeah.
But at any rate, my parents were very supportive of me in doing something that kind of came out of the blue, that involved me as the beneficiary of something that I had never dreamed of. And for me, that was a great experience because it's hard to imagine, but in 1951, Topeka was much more isolated from the rest of the country than it is now. There was no air travel, no TV. Mm-hmm. Making a phone call was a big deal, mm-hmm. And so it took about overnight or to get by train from Topeka to Chicago. So I entered a new world, and not to elaborate in too much detail, my first year I had two roommates, Sam Costanzo from a Catholic boy from Birmingham, Alabama, and B.Z. Goldstrich, a Jewish kid from Miami Beach. So we had some pretty good religious discussions at that point, you know. But it was a stimulating experience for me and a very confusing experience at the same time. But as I say, I was really the beneficiary of something that has meant a great deal to me in my life. And from then on, I went to, decided I was interested in, I read Freud the first year I was at Chicago, and I decided I wanted to go into psychiatry. And so I decided I wanted to do it by being an MD. So I went to medical school in Cleveland, where I met my wife-to-be, Claire, and we moved to New York because we both thought that would be exciting. And it really, she kind of, I had always been involved with books and education, but Claire really opened things up for me in terms of the arts, because she has a very fine eye, whether it's photography or painting or ceramics, or all of which she has done a lot of. Mm-hmm. And we weren't collectors, but she just wanted to make our own place beautiful. And in those days, this will sound strange, but you could get a rent-controlled apartment, a 5-room apartment, if you were lucky, for $149 a month. That is pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
And so we really fixed that place up, and Claire did remarkable things with it, and copied paintings and made collages and all sorts of things. And we were right. Because we wanted to live cheaply, we had just made a decision not to take money from our parents. We weren't fighting with them or anything. We just wanted to be independent. Claire was making about 5 times more than I was as a secretary in a trekking company, and I was an intern at Lenox Hill Hospital. The saying was that we got by through the sweat of our brow, you know, and that was really true. We got very interested in the art scene, which was very vibrant at that time, of course, abstract expressionism and just all sorts of art. And we bought a few inexpensive paintings and copied some that weren't so that we couldn't afford, and so that really got us into the whole art world. Mm-hmm. And that has become the case back here in Topeka, where we've kind of maintained that in our own way.
Mm-hmm. Who would you say is your biggest influence?
I would say that I identify a lot with my dad, who who also was a person very interested in learning and books, and but I would also say that I've had some very close friends over the years, some of whom I still get together with. One college roommate that is now in New York, and another friend of mine who died a few years ago, who, when I would write something, I would send it to him and I would get good feedback, and we were just good friends, and we went through residency together. And I think my biggest influence really would have to be my dad and Claire. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, there are lots of people that gave me ideas or shook me a little bit, and there's still the board that we have. I have the board members on the Redbud Foundation are very close friends, but they are not afraid to tell it like it is from their point of view and to make me substantiate whatever it is I'm saying or figure out why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so that's been, and then they also spring from another group that has not so much to do with the arts, but in the 25 years ago when I was at Menninger, I was doing consulting to family businesses. So a group of us from all over the country got together to present cases to each other because often we couldn't find people in our own community to talk about family business cases. And many of those people on that small group have become very close friends, and I still stay in touch with them. And so there are many, many people that I'm not afraid to lean on people or borrow ideas. Another person, I didn't initially intend to get into the banking business, but my dad was very tolerant of that. He didn't try to put pressure, my brother or sister and I, but my dad loved banking, did it for all of his life, really. And when he was 86, the bank had some loan problems. This was the time in the early 80s of the there was an agricultural downturn and an energy downturn. We had some bad loans. So the examiners came and they said, you know, we have a great deal of respect for Mr. Swogger, but you got to get somebody new. So we went from a 86-year-old president to a 29-year-old president.
Wow.
A fellow named Gerald Lauber, who was a Washburn student who worked as a teller and then kind of caught on to banking and was promoted and showed a talent for working with problem loans, which was exactly what we had. And so so we decided to make Gerald our president, and he is still our president. He's not 29 years old anymore. But
Neither am I.
yeah. But in a way, he's been very, very close. We have had to work together, but we've also been close friends and kind of gone through various ups and downs in our families together. And so, you know, you could probably make if I could think fast enough and talk fast enough, you'd probably have a very, very long list of people that I've relied on or have helped me and given me ideas and confronted me and, you know, all the things that happen with friends.
Yeah. So what was the 8-year-old version of Glenn Swogger doing in your spare time?
We grew up in Oakland, and until we didn't stay there till I was 8. And my grandfather and grandmother lived there, and my Aunt Hazel and her husband lived there. And at that time, Oakland was small enough, like you walk a couple of blocks, you were on a farm. I remember Mr. Copeland's farm, the Kelsey family's farm. That was before the Billard Airport was put in. And I knew all the kids all over there, and I can still tell you all their names. So when I was 8-year-old, I was just doing the things that kids did, and I was getting a lot of, without realizing it, learning a lot of things from my mother, for one, who was, once we were asked to make Valentines for the kids in our class. This must have been first grade, I don't know, first grade, second grade, kindergarten. So I went home to my mother and we started making one, and she got enthusiastic about it. She made a whole bunch. I made one for everybody in the class, and I kind of fell asleep as all this is going on. But she really got me interested in that sort of thing. And then also in music, she got us in the choir at the First Presbyterian Church, and played the piano herself very well. And my mom and dad got me a Victrola, which is something out of the Dark Ages, where you crank a crank, and you put a record on, then you have to put a little steel needle in the thing, and you put it over, and then it makes music. And I thought that was hot stuff, and so I got that, and so. But then when I was 8, my dad moved us all to Westboro, And so I had a whole new world to get used to, and started out with some fights and troubles with kids there, but we gradually got to be friends. And one of the kids who was son of a psychoanalyst, Robert Knight, lived just 2 doors down. We became friends. He used to come to Topeka when we were both adults. But I remember going in his house, and there had a big library where his dad had all of his books way up to the ceilings, you know. And I look around and I see a book by Carl Menninger, and it says, "The Human Mind." And I thought, Jesus, there it is, right in one book, right there, right in that book. And so that was one experience that I had there. But also, it was just that was a different world for me. And then I went through Randolph and Boswell Junior High, and which was it had some very nice things about it. And then just got into high school before I got this scholarship. My first year in high school, my only year in high school, I developed something called Osgood-Schlatters disease, which is just a thickening on your knee joint. Mm-hmm. So I had to take couldn't take gym, had to take an extra class, and I took debate, which I loved. You know, if you're a smart aleck and you like to talk, debate is for you, you know. And so that was a good experience. So I've been very lucky. I've done a lot of things that and known a lot of people that enriched my lives.
Very good, very good. Well, we're here with Glenn Swogger, the recipient of this year's Liz Stratton Arts Patron Award for Arts Connect. Will you stick around with us? We need to take a real quick break. Will you come back with us and chat a little bit more?
Sure.
All right. Folks, don't go away. We have more coming up right after this. We're back here in the studio with Glenn Swogger. He is the recipient, with his wife Claire, of the Liz Stratton Arts Patron Award from Arts Connect. Thank you for joining us again.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we want to talk a little bit about Topeka's art scene. You've been around here for a long time. Maybe give us a little commentary on where we were versus where we are today.
I'm not very good at that, really, because I think it was, while we always, Claire and I always remained interested in art and would go to museums and such, we didn't really follow the art scene very carefully until Noto started. That had, there are a variety of reasons for that. Partly because it's in North Topeka, and the headquarters of the Kaw Valley Bank is in North Topeka. Mm-hmm. So we became kind of a logical supporter of it and have been a supporter for a long period of time. Also before that, when Beth Fager pioneered getting things going at Overland Station, mm-hmm. and prevented it from being torn down, we worked with her and supported her and her efforts, and I have a great deal of admiration for what she did, not just in terms of the money that she contributed, but the leadership that she gave and an awareness of what the potential was of that building. I'm sure you've seen the ceiling up there, mm-hmm. fantastic mm-hmm. Art Deco / Middle Western scene that she had people up there that she dug up some people in Lawrence and had them on a scaffold up there, kind of like Michelangelo style, mm-hmm. you know. And now, of course, that whole project in terms of expanding from the Overland Station and Noto got a little bit stalled by the fact that we didn't have money for the river. But this new development with Corps of Army Engineers has really made a big difference. Yeah. And that plus what's happening in downtown, here in downtown Topeka, is going to really put us a quantum leap ahead in terms of things. So we didn't go out of our way to do anything special before the events happened. The one exception that I might make to that, which is not Topeka, but was certainly important to us, I think I mentioned that Claire and I both got interested in photography, but in different ways. I started doing a lot of scuba diving and underwater photography, but Claire got interested in photographing people and travel. She wasn't particularly interested in buildings or, you know, but more the people that she met. And sometimes while I was busy at Menninger, she would go on trips on her own to all over the world. And I used to tell Claire that she was the Typhoid Mary of the Middle Eastern world, because she went to Afghanistan and Pakistan and Yemen and Egypt, and every time she went somewhere they had trouble there a couple of years later, you know. But she had a very unique knack of, and has, of relating to people and getting them, and so that she doesn't just lean out of a bus and take a picture as they go. She hangs around places and talks with people, and then gets them to pose for her, or catches them in a way that has a reality to it. Mm-hmm. And I think I mentioned this when we went over to visit her family in Germany. And we were living in New York, right near the Bowery. We thought, well, let's take some pictures of bums in the Bowery, you know. And so we went over there and hung around, and we were just a couple of blocks from where we lived. And Claire would get involved with these guys, and they would really kind of not just cooperate, but they'd want to straighten up a little bit and look right, you know, mm-hmm. and or talk about their medical problems or whatever, so that she was always a photography of somebody in relationship to her, and back and forth, rather than just trying to catch it, you know, like a wild animal, bang, bang, I got a picture of a porcupine or whatever, you know. Mm-hmm. And so we've shown some of her stuff in various places, and I get a big satisfaction when I see that and know what she did and how she did it. And those are the things that we've done some other things which I think you're familiar with. One of the painters that we got to know in New York was Bud Holman, who grew up in North Topeka. So when we were putting on a show at the bank, an art show, I asked Claire, I wonder where Bud Holman is, and we finally tracked him down in Nogales, Arizona. He's 88 years old at that time, a year or two ago, and still actively painting. And in talking with him, he said that he had done a lot of drawings of homes and buildings in Topeka and in towns around Topeka. And so we arranged for him to do a showing of those at Noto, and they are now housed in the Topeka room of the Shawnee
Library,
Shawnee County Topeka Library, which is where they should be, because if he dies at some point and that those are down in Arizona, who the heck will know or care about them?
Right. Yeah.
And they were now working with people at Washburn to do a full-scale retrospective of his work in a year or so.
Very good.
So,
what would you like to say to the person or persons who nominated you and Claire for this honor?
Well, thank you. It's kind of a double dip, you know. On the one hand, we have always, I mean, our strategy has always been to work with a person or a group or an organization to help them do something. So it's partly work, but it's also gratifying in itself when you see something come out right, like with Bud Holman's exhibit or any of the other things we've talked about. So that's very satisfying. But it's sort of icing on the cake to be recognized by other people and say, hey, you're doing something good, you're doing something worthwhile. That's where I'm not immune to that.
Well, we certainly do appreciate your contributions. Topeka is a much better community because of your contributions to the art scene, and so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet, you bet. Sarah, do you have anything to wrap up here with Glenn?
No, I like how I heard that little New York accent there, that last bit. How you doing?
It's good. It's interesting. I used to find that my accent would change when we come to Topeka for a visit. I would speak Topekese, you know.
Yes.
And then we go back to New York. I develop a little bit of that lingo too.
Okay, so we have a lightning round questions here, a set of these questions here, where they're just really quick.
I have a lightning round answer. Go ahead.
All right, perfect. We're going to put 60 seconds on the clock, and I'll ask you as many of these as I can. Just give us the first answer that pops to the top of your mind. All right, ready?
Okay.
Here we go. In 60 seconds, and go. In your opinion, what was the greatest movie ever made?
Belle de Jour.
All right. Which big-name celebrity do you idolize the most?
I'm flunking the 60-second test.
We have a slow clock. We need to change the battery, so we're fine.
Well, this is not really in the arts world, but I have a lot of admiration for Charles Krauthammer. I think he's a man of not only interesting things to say, but also a very good sense of humor. Now, let me see if I can think of somebody in the arts world.
And his last name's Krauthammer.
That's, yeah.
What's that?
And his last name's Krauthammer.
Yeah.
That's a good one. If you could have one superpower, what would that be?
I think, kind of based on my age and my preoccupations, I'd say my superpower would be to help people treasure the past while they move into the future.
All right, very good. Do you have any tattoos?
No.
All right. If you could
only the ones put on by my dermatologist. I don't think you want to count them.
Let's see.
Too much tropical sun and scuba diving.
If you could take one personal item on a trip to Mars, what would it be?
It would be a super tablet, which would contain in it all the books that I would ever have read or wanted to read.
Who are the top 3 people that make you laugh the most? Besides me, of course.
Well, now let's see.
Chris Schultz, you don't count.
People that make me laugh the most. You know, that's the sort of question I'll know the answer when I walk out of this room. Let me...
we could pass on it if you want.
Yeah, let's pass on.
Okay. What's your favorite kind of sandwich?
Chicken pesto.
All right. What's your favorite kind of music?
Well, I love music of many kinds and a great deal of music, but I would have to say that my real favorites would be Bach's B minor Mass and his motets.
All right. If you were ice cream, which flavor would you be?
It would be strawberry sundae.
Why's that? Why's that?
Actually, now that I can think of it, it'd be raspberry sundae, just because I like the taste of it.
There you go. Okay. And who's your favorite local talk show host?
You, of course.
All right. Thank you very much.
I may be stupid, but I'm not dumb. You know?
I really do appreciate you coming by today, Glenn. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Congratulations to you and Claire on the award for the Liz Stratton Arts Patron Award. I really do appreciate all of the contributions you make to this
You're
scene.
very welcome. It's been a joy, even though sometimes it gets pretty hectic.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you, and come back and keep us updated when you go on some more crazy, fun excursions somewhere, all right?
I'd love to do it.
All right, thank you very much.